got a great guest today.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Yeah, we're going to do our normal intros.
Yep.
Then we're going to be getting on to Andrew Parkinson.
Yeah.
What an inspiration he is, and what a great player he was, and what a talent he is.
Absolutely.
But first, let's go through the sponsors, shall we? Brian Curl Basketball. Now, I only talk about the thing that I'm involved with, and that's the academy. But he's got the Olympic clinics, which is a one-day clinic. He's got the Owls Basketball Club.
How many teams in that club?
34 teams, but it's growing. He's got the women's clinics. There's a big thing coming on, women in sport, down on the Gold Coast.
Okay.
He's got the Aboriginal and Torres Strait Island clinics. He's got his 3-day camps, and on weekends, individual skill development, hour sessions for all different skills. Another shout out to Chris Weir at FIT Education. Chris, you're a rivet. It is the place to go for your registered training organization. That's what it is called, right? An RTO?
Yeah, RTO.
You want to get your certificate or diploma. By the way, Chris will be a guest on our show.
Looking forward to meeting him.
I think so. And then we got Ryan Stahlberg. And I didn't know until last week when you mentioned that Benny Thompson is also a part of Big Dog Sports.
Yeah, and we're going to get the two of them on together, I hope.
I think that'd be great.
Yeah.
In harmony.
Yeah, it'll be a bit
Like
of
the
a...
Everly Brothers.
Yeah, and they're both funny guys.
Or Simon and Garfunkel,
Oh,
perhaps.
yeah.
What other
Those
two men?
Stolly and T.
Milli Vanilli.
Yeah, that's the one. You know the stuff.
So, hey, Big Dog, you need a court. Big Dog Sports is the place to go. We have a severe shortage of facilities. In fact, I was speaking with a member of the administration at Brisbane Basketball Incorporated about, mate, we got to get that park.
Oh, man.
We keep hiring schools that it disadvantages the school. It's definitely a cost to all of our members. If we had our own court, an extra 3 courts, we'd be laughing. But if you don't, if you're like BBI and you need a court, go to Big Dog. All
Stolly.
right. Before we get into Parky, the great Andrew Parkinson, we got to do our normal thing. You got some shout outs, don't you, Stevie?
Yeah, well, let's start with the NCAA tournament that just finished.
Great tournament.
And, well, we had quite a few Aussies playing in different teams, and we ended up with one of them winning, and that's Alex Condon. He's out of WA, 6'11".
Yes.
He had a big game in the final where he had 12 points, 7 rebounds, and he was very influential in the last few minutes of the game with some big boards, and yeah, that's pretty amazing. So he's sort of come from nowhere. I mean, he's been in the NBA school in Australia when he was here and stuff, but he actually, what I read, has got some AFL clubs chasing him as well.
I could see that. He's an athlete.
Yeah.
He's very athletic. And
I believe the Collingwood Pies are chasing him.
the Pies?
That's them.
Well, he'll have to get a tattoo right away and maybe knock out a couple of teeth.
And like get a jacket for one of the local motorbike clubs or something.
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah.
It'd be another one of many that basketball loses to the AFL.
Yeah, I don't think the AFL going to be able to keep with the NBA. He's on the bubble. He's close.
Yeah. I mean, he's only a sophomore.
Correct.
So, I think with his NIL package, speaking of NIL packages, our boy Maxie McKinnon, Sammy's son,
LSU
on
Big
an
time.
NIL deal.
Yeah.
So he's going to come back with earrings, ink, spend it now on a Hummer. I think he's looking into a Hummer.
Oh, wow. Well,
Good on you, Max.
Yeah, well, we want to have a bit of a shout out to his agent as well. That's Cooper Marshall.
Is it really? He's got Cooper Good on you, Coop DeVille. Hey, Steve and I are looking for an agent. Maybe you can hook us up.
Hook us up, yeah. Like for God knows what.
Hey,
another couple of quick. When we said these guys several times, but their performances just continue to be outstanding in the NBA. Is Giddy and Dyson Daniels.
Exceptional. But we forgot one sponsor who jumped on.
Oh,
Matt Shanahan and Bubble Boards.
Yeah, and look, I believe that you were involved in a commercial deal with helping sell a few bubble boards at one of the local schools.
There's a great chance of that.
Yeah.
But hey, they are fantastic. I mean, I don't know a coach that doesn't use some form of whiteboard. Either it's magnetic, or it's with the erasable. What do you call that? Whiteboard marker.
Yeah.
But thank you, Matt. And it's unfortunate they lost in the
Yeah, they lost to South
semifinals.
Australia Metro in the semi. Yeah, so, I mean, we've been out and watched a couple of those games
Yeah.
out there, and high standard athletes everywhere.
Yeah.
But it's still amazing that the teams that I watched, how important is there's some guys that aren't 6'10", 6'11", that are handling the ball, and
Yeah.
they control the game.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're fast.
All right, so now I'm sorry I had to interrupt, but there's a lot of that in this show. Giddy and Daniels.
Outstanding. Daniels, the most steals this century.
Really?
Yeah.
He's first team all defense.
Yeah,
NBA.
and the only person with more triple doubles than Giddy is a guy called Michael Jordan.
Michael Jordan, you say?
Yeah.
Giddy's been playing great.
Yeah, that's in
And,
Chicago, I mean.
it's getting
He's 6'9", and his rebounding is outstanding.
exceptional. His passing is exceptional. I'm thrilled. He'll have a long-term home there at Chicago
I'm
Bulls.
also getting excited by some of these guys for our next Olympic team. Like, it's a bit of a change of the
What
guard.
if Kyrie Irving gets his citizenship?
But he just did his ACL, and he's going to be about 45 at the next Olympics. So.
Incorrectamundo, he won't be that old. And we're talking about
Did I exaggerate?
28. He's got 3 years to recover, but I think it'd help if he's fully recovered. I think the backcourt's going to be pretty solid. Let's say Delhi steps up and comes to the party.
You just got to take your hat off to this guy because he's signed with the Kings, and I watched the Gorgian and what's the other?
Andrew Bogut.
With Delhi, and they're calling it Delhi's team, and they openly saying he wants to be in the 28 Olympic,
Yeah.
and that's just like a big statement. I mean, he's already been to 3 Olympic Games, and he will be nearly 40.
Did you research that?
Yeah.
Yeah. He can go. I think he'll help. I think they missed him. In fact, the experience, the leadership is valuable. But their guard play, Giddy, Dyson Daniels, still need a guy that can stroke it.
Mate, there's also Proctor that's coming out of Duke. You know?
Yeah,
That's in 3 years. Think that.
It's going to be a very competitive environment. Again, the one thing that we've always been lacking is a 4, a 6'10", 7 foot that can play off the bounce.
Yeah.
They can penetrate, they can pass. You look at all those European teams, everybody does it, which makes me, and particularly after watching our Queensland South team, boy, what are we doing in the national, the alphabet soup? The bigs, Jesus, what bigs? We got one big.
Yeah.
He's built like a buggy whip.
I mean, he got up and down the floor well. He was going hard on the glass. They just don't seem to have any skills with their back to the basket at all.
No, a lot of dribbling.
A lot of dribbling.
Not a lot of cutting. You tell when I watch a game, and I've seen this with teams that I've coached, where the pressure is so intense, the denial of entry passes, just passes in general, that now all we can do is dribble. And if you're not dribbling to penetrate and kick and relocate, then it's just dribbling.
Me, there's always been to say to the kids, how do you get your teammate free? You cut really hard to the
Cutting's
basket,
critical.
or you set a screen away from the ball or on the ball. So there are ways that you can get open, correct? And I think dribbling is often the first option.
Just a little note here, Parky's yet to receive the Zoom stuff.
Okay.
But let's finish this up, and then we'll get on to making sure that we've got our Zoom all... is it Zoom or Skype? Zoom. We're still in the rumors and whispers category now. I heard a good interview with Stu Lash, the new coach of the Bullets, succinct, and he did, shower praise and dependency on Greg Vanderjack and Daryl McDonald, his assistants. They've been in this league. That he's been around it on the periphery, but I thought it was good. He looks at the strengths of the team, mentioning Prather, mentioning Terrell Harrison, mentioning Mitch Norton.
Yeah,
mentioning getting back Smack, Sam McDaniel.
Well, he's a big piece because one, he's also offensively improved.
Yeah.
But defensively, like he's a stud in that department.
I reckon.
But it's still not enough for me. You got to. I'm hoping that Lash LaRue is going to bring. Well, that's his. I personally mentioned that to him when I saw him at the Aussie Championships. I said, "Look, you're in Australia. It's really important that you have a nickname." And I said, "Let's call you Lash LaRue, and we're going to spell that with a R-double-O like a kangaroo." And he really thought it was a good name.
He embraced it.
Yeah, he did.
He did. All right, well, so we got a sugar bag of rumors and whispers happening now because the free agency thing in the NBL is throbbing.
I'm going to fly through. There's lots of rumours and you can't keep up with them all. But, if we just start at the top, Adelaide had some good signings. They've got Isaac White. They've also picked up Nick Marshall not Mick Marshall, the kid from Perth, Michael Harris. He's a good kid.
Yeah.
He was on the end, and they've also picked up, I think, their best signing is Flynn Cameron thus far.
Huge.
Yeah, but there's no Kendrick Davis, there's no Mansour so again, no imports in that status at the moment. If we go on to the Bullets, well, we just mentioned there's some talk about Bateman and his contract, whether he's here or that. I've heard a bit of rumour that he's got a contract, but there's some clauses in it. So whether or not we see Bateman, and I don't think we'll see Cook again at all.
Is that like Bear Claus? Santa Claus? I don't know if James is. You need consistently better production.
I'm
looking forward to seeing Tristan Devers play.
I'm hoping, like he's calling Lash LaRue, calling the big fella a perimeter shooter, which he absolutely is, but he had to really play out of the way. Milner,
the big Kiwi.
Yeah, he's admirable off the bench, but he's not going to help us. We're not going to win a championship because we've got
Lash
Milner.
Really put an importance on. What's his name? Smith Milner. There's a hyphen there about a big that can stretch the floor. He can shoot it, man.
Yeah, he had to do way too much for the team last year, with injuries and so forth. But then
so what's the question mark? And I don't see his name there. Is Rocco?
Well, the word is he's got a girlfriend that goes to college in the States or something. But I think the college pathway for Rocco is the right way. I think he's got a lot to learn. He's got he's got a reasonable looking shot, but I wouldn't be relying it from the 3-point land. He doesn't have a lot of moves back to the basket. He gets up, what he does? He gets up and down the floor pretty well for a 7-3, but I think college would be awesome for him, but that's just me.
Okay, I noticed that Jared Bairstow, what does FRD stand for? Free agent or?
That's a forward. That means he's a forward.
Oh, it's usually FWD, but that's cool. They do their own thing.
Okay, so let's look at the Cairns.
Are they fielding a volleyball team, or is that going to be? They've only got 4 players.
Yeah, and no imports. They got that Higgins Tisha. He was his first year last year. He's solid.
Yeah.
He goes from being a DP to full roster. They've re-signed
That gives
Wardenberg.
them 5.
Yeah, they've got some.
Kyle Adnam.
Well, what about coach? Wouldn't that help if you named the coach?
And if I could he comes from Cairns, or at least I met him in Cairns. Joel Kalu would be a perfect candidate for that.
Well,
but
they've got Williams up there as well.
Yeah, exactly right.
And I think they're pretty good mates.
They would be, but there you go. Why not give them but it seems to be the trend that, no, we have to get a Yank, you know.
They've got no imports there at the moment, and it
Boy,
doesn't sound like any of
cupboard
theirs.
is thin.
Yeah.
All right, let's go to the Hawks. Those mighty Illawarra Hawks.
They've signed Blanchford back up, Peatley's there, Gritter's there, Froling signed up. So they've got a big pass.
Lee, the South Korean kid, is in.
Yeah.
Orbic's, Lachlan, is it Orbic or Olbrick?
Albrick, he's there.
He's
making
himself available for the draft.
Yeah.
It's good because he can always come back.
Yeah.
That is as it happens with, championship teams. Lucas Yates is another really good kid from North Queensland that's going to get more time. He did well.
Yeah. And they've got
Sam
young Kobe as a deep
McDowell Whites can ball.
Yeah. So, they haven't knocked Trey Kell away, but I don't know whether they'll get him or not. So now we're talking Melbourne. Now this is a bit of a dark horse as well, what's going on there, because they've picked up the Kraslovic from Tasmania.
Yeah, Fabulous Fab. Yes.
Yeah, he's a
serviceable, he does his job.
I mean, Dash Daniels sounds like he's got to get some court time. He's
another really good kid.
Yeah.
I mean, the Ricky Daniels, the father, he was a standout SCABL player. It's great to see he stayed, and his kids, boy, they're from a good gene pool.
They have lost. He didn't play a lot as a Lear. He's gone to, his first name is Akish. And that's not like a quiche that you eat. Maybe it's a cash.
It could be a cash.
Yeah. But they've lost Flynn Cameron, they've lost Deladova, Jack White's looking about going overseas. So
playing in Germany now as we speak.
Yeah. I think Ian Clark is a critical signing for them. Yeah, they got to get him. So I really don't know. There's some talk of Finn Delaney, who very good Kiwi, played most of his time he's been playing overseas most of his times for the New Zealand team.
Breakers.
That's them.
Right.
Yeah.
Will
McDowell White's been thrown around in a lot of teams, and whether it'd be a good pickup.
Huge.
I just also heard at the Breakers that
Brisbane. Wouldn't that be nice?
They've just released Mitch McCarron.
Yeah, I saw that.
So I mean, he'd be handy somewhere. I guess a bit of a glue guy, senior, but his days of starting, I think.
He's a Brisbane kid.
Yeah.
He had a knee injury last year. I think it was his knee. He's as solid as oak, but I wish him all the best.
So there's talk of Bolden. Like, Bolden is a bit of a journeyman, isn't he? And not really rock solid to me when he plays. I mean, he's got all the tools, big and shoot threes and stuff. But
are we with New Zealand now?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd keep him for sure. You can't get enough, talented 6'11" kids. Mojave King, that's another one. He's out of contract. I'd stitch him up. He's another one. Love to have him back in Brisbane.
Correct.
So
they're a bit
retired.
They're the Breakers.
Taco Fall. Would you go that way again?
Yeah.
Wow.
But they've picked up Leafa from the Kings.
Yeah.
And they've picked up. He played at Southeast last year. He's another Kiwi. What is his name? It'll come
Tarangi.
to me. Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
First name?
That's a good question.
Okay.
Wildcats, interesting stuff going over there as well. No imports. They've still got the next
Well,
start.
let's Doolittle. Is he not an import?
Oh, sorry, that's right. He signed for 3 years.
Yeah, good signing.
Absolutely good signing. Jesse Wagstaff for his 400th season.
But he's productive, and he's a great leader of men.
I love him. So Henschel's talking about maybe going to college, getting
I saw that.
A nil.
He should attract a nil. Keanu Pinder.
Yeah, he's overseas apparently, but he's not going to be
Where?
at Perth.
China?
That's what I heard, but I'm not certain. And then I guess the other thing is
Windler.
Yeah, Windler. I'd sign him again. I like him.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I don't know about Webster. The first thing about you got to be available, and he often injured last year.
So it doesn't sound like he's going to be here.
Let's move into the Heartland, shall we? The name they gave themselves, the Phoenix.
In the, what do they call themselves?
The Heartland.
The Heartland, that's right.
What a wank.
Yeah. Well, they've lost Ben Air. The hurt is no guarantee he's going back. He's a stud. So you can see they've got a few. Walton Jr. and Weeds Camp there, other imports. I doesn't sound like any of them are coming back. But they've locked Sobey. They've locked Foxwell.
Good. Glover. The guys they've got back are
good
solid.
Australian.
Yeah.
Hunter and Glover. I mean, they're all solid. So and they picked up Allaire. He's a big from.
So Ben Air, who I really like. He's off to Tassie.
Yeah, Tassie be
really
making some moves.
They're making moves, mate.
Yeah, because they've got Bannon as well.
So Sean Bruce is still. Oh, now we're moving on to the Kings, and then we'll get on to Tassie.
Correct.
They are the what are they called? Army ants.
Sounds like they're giving the Kings have picked up. As we know, they've picked up Dellavedova.
Dellavedova's big.
And they've still got Galloway. Who didn't play last year. It's still a nice
He'll be
squad.
healthy. Robertson, the big. What's his name? The kid. He's strong as a house. What's his name?
Spurgeon.
I don't see. Spurgeon will get more time this year.
Yeah.
He's talented. No, I don't know if he's Mexican.
The young fellow lost his
Pepe.
head.
There he is.
He was injured a lot too.
Yeah, he got hurt, and that really hurt them because he's a Swiss Army knife defensively.
Yeah, he can defend
everywhere.
like a 5-4-3. He could defend temporarily a guard as well. Like if they had a switch or something, a late switch, he has that ability. I wouldn't say he can pick a guard up full court. But
They still need a guard.
absolutely.
A swing 1-2-3 guy.
Absolutely.
Get a 6'7" athlete that can score, and then they could use another big to go with Spurgeon.
Yeah.
That's
And Tui's gone on the draft. Alex Tui.
Yeah, that's right. He could
So
be
he's-
back, but I think he'll get drafted.
Yeah.
There you go. Okay.
So now we're on the Jack Jumper.
Let's get to the Jack Jumpers.
Well, they're going to be happy to have McDonald back injury free. He's a stud. Magnay, Dang, they've got a good core. So they bring in Nick Marshall and they bring in Bannon and they bring in Ben Air.
I like what they've done.
Yeah, that's a good squad.
And they got to bring back Doyle and
there's
Crawford.
there's talk of Doyle coming back, but he hasn't signed yet. So mate, that's a quick run through of the teams.
Yeah, there you go.
Okay, so I actually quite like it. It's a really active free agency and there's a lot of action going on, but I still see the imports are the key here. There's a lot of teams without a guaranteed import now. As you said, New Zealand still saying they've got 4 as one of their players. I feel sorry for Taco because he is what he is. He can't do any more than what he does, but it changes the gameplay for his teammates when he's on the
man.
Yeah.
You get a big that can stretch him. He's not going to come out of the paint.
Right.
He can't move his feet.
Yeah.
He is 7 foot what?
6.
Jesus. He's a footer and a half. Look at. So what team is that with the free agents where they got Dalton and Matt Hodgson and what team is that?
That's
that's the Jack Jumpers.
Yeah.
Well, they've got one of our juniors there who I'm really happy to see, and that's Nick Stoddard.
I think Nick will...
They got Tamari Wigness down as a free agent,
Yeah,
who's going to be playing this year with the Spartans NBL 1. So is Matty Hodgson.
Right. Okay.
it'll
Yeah,
be-
I heard he's playing for Southern Districts.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right.
So, mate, that's the rundown on the clubs. I think we're going to dial in Parky, and we'll come back and
We'll come back
have a
all
good
on
chat.
Zoom. So, listeners, if the sound quality isn't quite as pitch perfect as my voice is right now, and that is my podcast voice, understand that it's all done on Zoom.
Yes.
Technology is providing. So,
Yeah.
the next time that you hear our voice on this podcast, and our producer Kyle will. He'll
Put it all together.
He'll stitch it all
Yeah,
together.
yeah, he'll stitch it all
along
together.
with a few, comments for you and I. But the great Andrew Parkinson will be next.
Yes. Okay. Thanks.
We want to welcome our guest, Andrew Parkinson. Let me just give a little bit of an intro, Parky. I don't have, we're going to talk about your television career as well as part of this. I don't have your ability to deliver, but two-time NBL champion. Those were 92 and 96. The most improved player in 91. Led the free throws.
91%. Jesus.
Don't foul Parky.
It was 91 point something. I
Those
think.
bastards.
I rounded up to 92, but anyway, that'll do. That'll do.
Well, I'm happy to go with 92. I mean, this podcast has a fucking lot of pull, Parky.
Oh,
And,
big time, mate. I've been waiting. Like I said, long time listener, first time caller.
You're a good man.
I've been waiting.
Mate.
I've been waiting to insult and violate.
There you go. Well, you're with the insultant right here.
Yeah.
I want to start first, Parky, with your health. I mean,
Yes.
you've been a huge inspiration to me.
Yes.
You know, I'm in a little bit of a dogfight. When did you get diagnosed, and what was it?
It was September 2019. That's when my life changed. I was a bit of an idiot because I was urinating pure blood
Oh, shit.
for a couple of months. And of course, I didn't think anything of it, as we do sometimes. You know, as men, we think we're invincible, and I never went to the doctor or anything, and I didn't see any reason to. But I happened to mention it to him just before we went away on a has-been tournament, which will give them a mention, I'm sure. But
Absolutely.
so no, it was small cell carcinoma, cancer of the bladder, and basically I was given 2 to 3 years to live. So that would have taken me to 2022. But as you know, we're in 2025 now. So it's
Is it in remission?
it's been a journey. Yeah, well, it's a weird one because my particular cancer, it's not. There's no such thing as remission. It's a bit of a rare cancer. It's 1 to 9 in a million. 1 in a million sort of thing. So you're never really in remission. So they're constantly checking me every 6 months. I can report exclusively to insults and violations that my last PET scan, which I think BP, you've got one of those bad boys coming up soon. So all the best for that one. But no, I got a good result, a clear result. So I've got another 6 months. Yeah, got another 6 months to concentrate on all my other health issues that are from or the magnitude of treatments I did, surgeries, and all that sort of stuff. So it's been a journey, to say the least.
Well, like I say, for those of us who are battling cancer, you have been a huge. I remember when Brian messaged me to say you got the all clear. I was over the moon. I tried to do a cartwheel and hurt my shoulder. But
I know, I appreciate that, and look, for the record, I think both you guys, provided me with inspiration. You know, with what you've gone through, and you too, Steve. I mean, well, you in particular, Steve. So I think, and that's something that reminds me of a saying that I'm probably going to butcher it now, but they say in life, it's not what you accomplish, it's what you endure, and I think both you guys can relate to that. I can definitely relate to that as well. So
certainly you get dealt a pill that you weren't anticipating. I think you're right. I think men think we're bulletproof. We don't talk to people about shit very well. and you just sort of survive, I guess. But mate, I love one of the stories about you that Bruce told me that you had a treatment and the same night you're playing club basketball. Is this a true story?
Yes, no, I had chemo in the morning, radiation in the afternoon. I had a couple of doctor's appointments. Had to go to the chemist because I was on these new meds. I had no hair, no eyebrows, and I made sure that on Monday night time I said, "Fellas, I'm a little under the weather. I'm not at my best. Here I am playing A grade at the age of mid-50s. So that's hard enough as it is."
Mate,
I
that is
said,
just
I
sounds
said to the boys, "Make sure we got six tonight. I think I might need a sub, you know, here or there." And as it turned out, one guy missed. He didn't come
so you had no break.
because he had a cold. So that guy, after what I'd been, so that guy is
Oh,
now
you
called
poor
Sniffles.
darling.
He's
Yeah.
now called Sniffles. So he has never let that down. So so old Sniffles missed a game, and yet I showed up just messed up, just wrecked from
Oh,
chemo, all that stuff. You
but
know,
that
and
tells me a lot.
I still got a couple of jump shots. Seeing that ball go through the net's probably one of the best forms of therapy I think you can have.
But I
Yeah,
think that says a lot about you, Parky. That's the person that you are. That you're fighting something that's friggin' hard, and you still turn up for your mates. You
yeah,
know,
and I think humor's a big part of it, and I think that's why I love you guys and love what you do with your podcast. And BP in particular, I've known for 30, 40 years. And yeah, the humor, I think the humor side of it. I mean, I've got a lot of sayings, fellas. So be ready for a lot of sayings. But one of them is, if you don't laugh, you cry. So that was something that I definitely, going through, when you're getting organs taken out and surgeries, 18 months of treatment, all this stuff, you've got to keep your sense of humor. You've got to keep your positivity. Um, and I'm very lucky. I had a lot of people, support me in the basketball community in particular. Ex-teammates, ex-coaches. Brian Gorgon. I'll do a Bruce Palmer here. Can I drop a name?
Yeah,
So
you're welcome to drop a name.
I'll be dropping some names over the course of this pod, I'm sure. But so you don't do things alone. I think you know having that basketball community and ex teammates and even adversaries, guys that guys that you competed against and you weren't necessarily that friendly with. I mean, Bruce would be aware of my goings on with Ray Gordon, with that Melbourne Magic Tigers rivalry in the 90s.
That was
That was
special.
that was real hatred, and you would not believe it, but he and I are like, we're tight now. And
yeah, I saw him at one of your golf days. I saw it on social. I mean, the Victorian basketball community, I take my hat off to. I think it's the tightest group. You have the Pete's Bar and your Albert Park is just. I mean, I know it's been renovated many years ago, but it's just that everyone talks about it. We had Timsy on here and a few weeks ago, and she had the same sort of conversations around, that Pete's Bar, Albert Park, Bruce commentating apparently.
oh yeah, well I wanted to bring that up, but I think Timsy covered that pretty well. Although I do have a violation. I want to call Michelle Timms on a violation.
Do it.
I listened to your podcasts and Bruce Palmer, a sex symbol.
yeah,
What the?
yeah, I nearly, I
I
nearly
must have
fell
I
out of.
must have missed that. I must have missed that one.
I think she got me confused with Bill Palmer. There is a sex symbol.
That's, but no. So Timsy's about my around that same era, and no, you're right. Nigel Purchase threw a golf day on for me, and all the Tigers and Giants guys got involved as well as the Magic guys.
And Nigel
Uh,
Purchase.
Gaze was on a hole. Bray Gordon was there. Leonard Copeland had a hole. Breaky was on the long drive hole. Um, all the Giants boys were there as well. A lot of the players that Bruce used to coach in the early, sort of late '80s, early '90s. So I do feel privileged to be a part of that community. And and my ex teammates, during the worst times of my life, would come around during COVID when I was going through all my treatments and surgeries, and they break all the lockdown rules we had down here, which were ridiculous. And they'd come and we'd ride bikes every Wednesday. They'd come to my place, and we'd get on bikes and go riding around and stuff. So yeah, so a big part of my positivity, and I guess the reason I am where I am today is because of my ex teammates and people in the basketball community.
Now, let's talk about your basketball.
Yeah.
So I didn't realize this till we were speaking last week that you were a Melbourne Tigers junior. You started with the Tigers.
We've been hiding that because obviously during the 90s, when the Magic and Tigers were the fiercest of rivals, and I was punching on with Ray Gordon, and there was all we kept that under wraps. That the great Ken Watson under 14s. I was lucky enough to play for the Melbourne Tigers as a junior with good old Ken Watson.
And then you moved to the Knox Raiders. How old? I think we played against each other in the semifinals at the Nonger Dome at the Market Gardens in Dandenong, and you guys upended us. And that was, am I right?
Yes.
And I thought, wow, this kid is fearless offensive. Because we knew about Ray Shirley, and who was a really good guard, Ronnie Ryer.
Yes, Ronnie Ryer.
And good Bruce Beaton. You had good role players, and then you would have been. Well, how old were you then?
Yeah, well, I wasn't playing that much. I don't think I would have been on your scouting report for that game. But that was more sort of mid '80s when I was still in high school. But when it got to the late '80s, that's when I was when Slusher started coaching. He took over from Daryl Timian. That's when I started to sort of really come into my own in the NBL one, what was SEABL back then, as you know. And that's when in 1988, Robbie Bourne was the point guard there.
Right.
And obviously I had a good relationship with him. I made sure I always had a good relationship with the point guard, being a shooting guard, sort of scorer. And then that's when I sort of went to college in America, Slippery Rock University in Pennsylvania, a Division II school.
Okay. How old were you then?
I was 20. It was the same year that Drewy went to Seton Hall.
Oh, wow.
But my venture to college at Slippery Rock wasn't as high profile as the great grey man, as I call him now. But so that was the same time he was at Seton Hall. But it was a Division II school, and look, he and I were the only men and women, or boys and girls at that age, that were actually going in college now. And now you look at it, and there's
everyone,
hundreds, and some of these boys now, like the Max McKinnons and the Raps, and they're getting hundreds of
they're getting nil money.
They're getting the nil money, and I basically got nil.
You got your nil money.
I got a nil. I had a nil deal back in 1988 at Slippery Rock.
Well, everybody's falling down at Slippery Rock.
Yeah,
don't know why guys are falling on their dead. Slippery.
Yes, and to I guess to see where my head was at that time, and I think this is why it took me a while to break into the NBL. Was for some reason I had I had a name for being a bit of a party guy, a bit of a, and that year
really?
in Playboy. I know it's hard to believe, Steve, but
I know.
The 1988 Playboy edition, it had Slippery Rock University as the fourth partiest school in the nation. Okay, and this is up with all the ASUs, the Santa Barbara, Santa Clara, all those.
And until you arrived there, they were about 100. But No,
they were 4, Steve. They were 4, and when I got there, I think I might have put them up a couple of notches. But that was my focus. So I had a few offers, and I chose Slippery Rock because it was in Playboy magazine as one of the party schools, in the whole of America. So that was the school for me.
Parky, how many years were you there?
Just 1 year. I got a call from Barry Barnes, who, in his great wisdom, thought, well, this kid Parky, he's a bit of a player, he's a bit of a party guy. But if he survived a year of college, then let's bring him in to the Supercats. When Barnesy got the job there in 1989, he brought in Shane the Hammer Heel at the age of 17. I think Hammer had a year at Brisbane, and then he was yeah, so that's kind of how I got my
Bobby Locke.
chance
Yeah,
in the
that's
L.
probably like our.
Probably like Darren Rowe,
Yep.
even Ray Shirley in that first year, and
Vince Pinchin.
yeah, but Jimmy Bateman,
That's right. Yeah.
yeah, that sort of
Was
crew.
Georgie with you then?
Dorji, he should have been one of the first I mentioned. But yeah, Dorji, yeah, Shane Hill, myself. Tex Keeley was the assistant coach, who I got along with great. Um, in fact, there was a game we played the Giants in 1990 when Barnesy went away with the Australian team, and Tex Keeley started me, and we were playing the Giants, Bruce Palmer's Giants, with Fisher and all those guys. And I don't expect you to remember this, Bruce, but I remember it. I had 19 points in the first quarter. I broke a record, 5-3. So basically, Barnesy didn't play me. He went away to the World Championships as an assistant coach with the Aussie team. I'm not going to. I know it's insults and violations, but I'm not going to insult Barnesy. He did give me a chance, but I got my best chance when he went away, and Tex Keeley started, and I
That's
distinctly
big, Terry
remember.
Keeley.
I remember at the end of that first quarter, in front of the bench, the Palmer's bench, the Giants bench, and I was pretty pumped up. You know, I had 19. I don't think I'd scored 19 points in my career, and I'd had it in a quarter, and I was feeling pretty good in myself. And I'll never forget Bruce Palmer, and his big booming voice was right in my face, was basically saying, yeah, let's see how this goes. It's a fitness test. Let's see. So I might have only had another 4 points for the rest of the game. So I got that message loud and clear from Coach Palmer. He was thinking, yeah, good one, young fella. You might have got off in the first quarter, but yeah, let's see how you go for the rest of the 36 minutes.
We were on a 76-minute or 76-point pace. We had to clamp the D down.
Yeah, well, that's the
76.
yeah, that's the way it was. So that's yeah, and I have memories of Bruce playing pickup on a Friday afternoon and
At Albert Park.
Albert Park and all those all those days. I think it was very entertaining, and it was also good for your game, because I mean there was some pretty good players. It got pretty serious sometimes on those.
Yeah, discriminate. We never had an Albert Park. We never had a home of basketball up here, really, to be honest. Auchenflower was probably
Yeah.
the biggest, but unfortunately, Auchenflower hasn't grown too much and it's been through a few floods. But, mate, just to pivot, we like to pivot, is just for our listeners, mate, you were an elite scorer. You're 6'5", is that right?
Yeah, 6'6". I'm 6'5" now. We all shrink a little bit.
Yeah, but mate, tell me, what is the mindset of someone like yourself? You said you enjoyed life, which is great, but the mindset to become a scorer. Like, what I know, I wasn't anywhere near like what you were. What sort of work did you do away from the training paddock to be an elite scorer?
Well, I think repetition, and it all came back. I think you're a product of your environment. And when I grew up as a kid in the 70s, I was in Victoria. It was AFL cricket. I even played a bit of tennis, but it wasn't really popular sport like today. It's so popular. It's cool. Like everyone, it's a cool sport. Whereas when I was a kid in Australia and Victoria in it wasn't really. So I was introduced to the game through my parents. Both my mother and father played at a very high level, for state level, and my father was even an emergency with the '64 Olympic team. So I was introduced to the game and taught how to shoot properly. And thank God old Howie taught me how to get that elbow in and elbow to eyebrow. And so I'd go to school, I'd go dribble to the school, and shoot by myself, because I didn't have, mates didn't really want to play basketball, but I loved the game, and I loved, as I said earlier, seeing the ball go through the net is something that has lived with me since I was 6. Just that feeling of being able to score and shoot. So
Isn't it a great sport where you actually can do that on your own and get that,
yes, but
you're hitting the.
But it also, as I said, I was a product of my environment. I wasn't really known for my defensive capabilities. Okay, and a lot of that is, I think, is the way I grew up. I grew up just with a ball in my hand, shooting all that. I never played one-on-one with mates or anything. So I didn't have that. Obviously, you try and develop that and you work on that as much as you can. I didn't necessarily have the physical tools to be a great defender like a Darren Lucas or a Sam McKinnon or someone like that. But, I did my best, because when I got, in Brian's teams, obviously a big part of his coaching philosophy at the time was, grinding it out and playing the defense. But he loved a guy to come off the bench and loosen things up a little bit, which was a bit like he played, I think, and Bruce would attest to that. The way, people forget that Brian was an unbelievable 3-point shooter and scorer, himself. He used to often, claim that he was the second best shooter in our team behind me. So I was honoured. I was honoured to. He wouldn't put himself ahead of me. But yeah, he'd often say, "Hey, I'm the second best shooter in this team." Like, what, is Phil Jackson the second best shooter in his team? So that was always.
I think it's something that today's generation. I mean, you use the word repetition. I've got a couple of American coaches. One of them's coaching in Arizona. His name's Tommy Lloyd, and I've asked him multiple times, and he always uses the word repetition.
Yeah, reps. Yeah.
But today they need to have someone that they're paying $50 an hour to go shoot with, whereas you're saying he did that on his own and he loved the game. And Bruce and I are big on that, aren't we, in terms of people loving the game, and then you could shoot for hours on your own. Am I correct?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. No, that's exactly what I did. And look, we didn't have the distractions when I was a kid. There was no video games and streams of movie, things. So that's what you did. You got home from school, you dumped your bag, and you picked up a racket, a ball, a footy, a kick, basketball, whatever it was, and that's what I did. And the other thing that I think helped me be a 3-point shooter was obviously technique. You got to have a good technique. And as I said, my father taught me the right technique at a very young age. So that's important to have that technique. Then when you get the reps in. But it's also important, like, when you're playing. The thing I was going to say, the 3-point line only came in 1983.
Yes.
So I developed a shot that wasn't like I didn't. It wasn't a 3-point shot. I didn't have a 3-point shot. There wasn't a 3-point line when I was playing juniors. So I developed a normal shot, whereas you see kids now, it's like a magnet, that 3-point line. Everyone wants to shoot threes. Everyone wants to be Chris Golding or Steph Curry or, guys like that. And
they walk straight into the gym. And
it's like, no, whenever I coached juniors, you see kids and, their form goes all out of whack when they're trying to launch it from the 3-point line, because I don't have whereas I grew up without it, and then developed my shot, and then went to college at Slippery Rock, and then that nice little smaller NCAA line was handy. And then when you come back to Australia, that's when I sort of became known as a 3-point shooter. But I didn't grow up as a 3-point shooter. I just grew up as a scorer or as a shooter.
But you're technically sound.
And I think that really helped me develop that technique and the form and to shoot properly. And then as I got older, matured, played senior, then you can step it out.
I really saw a great improvement in your footwork. All the upper body mechanics were sound, soft, feathery shot, but your feet, you had that little bit of Doncic step back that when you're 6'6", you can't reach it. Now, can we reverse pivot?
Yeah.
Let's get back in. So you played 1 year at Geelong or 2 seasons?
2 seasons, 89 and 90.
And then you went to what used to be St. Kilda. They were called the South Melbourne Saints.
Southern Melbourne Saints.
Who was at the helm?
Gary Fox.
Foxy.
Oh, wow.
Gary Fox had 1 year there. Rob Morgan was his assistant, who was from Kilsyth, and we had about 6 of the Kilsyth boys on our squad.
Spiker Adams.
Timmy Core, and to name a few others there. But
was Simon Curl in that team?
Simon Curl's in that team, and Tad Doofelmeyer came down from Canberra for his life, and Doof was the greatest. He's still the greatest, but because to me he was the microwave before any other microwave.
Yeah, that's right.
I mean, he came off the bench. He used to torment your Giants teams, I know.
He was a handful.
Yeah, I remember he came off the bench and had 36 once. But he was in his twilight years. But playing with him for his last season was truly a treat. And he was a funny guy, American, very similar, like to Bruce, great sense of humour. he'd sit on the bike because he couldn't train every session. So he'd sit on the bike at mid-court at training and just commentate, oh, Parkinson gets it in the corner, So he was a lot of fun. Plus, he did enable me to have humble brag here, to have a game against the former club, the club that had fired me 9 months earlier. Barry Barnes, the Supercats, came in, and and I managed to, and he helped me get have a 50-piece against the team. I told you Bragg was coming against the team that had sacked me 9 months earlier and kicked me to the curb, and I was able to. And I think Bruce was there with his mate Brian.
A 50-piece, mate.
Yeah, and I don't know if you remember this. I hope you don't mind me telling you this. I hope you don't have any sponsors like Booze Less or anything. But Brian tells the story better because you know how he's the best. Cue the dog barking. He's the best, one of the best storytellers along with Bruce. But he came to the game, and that's when Brian knew about the merge. Right, he knew the Saints and the Spectres were going to merge. I don't think anyone else knew, but he told his good mate Bruce. And he said to Bruce, "Hey, let's go and watch this kid Parkinson. I think I'm going to pick him up. I think he's going to be one of the only guys I'm going to take from this Saints team. We were a bit like the Bad News Bears. We weren't that great a team. But Gorgon said, "Hey, BP, let's go to the glass house. Let's watch this kid." And then he decided, let's do a shot for every field goal that he makes. So I was 21 from 35 that night. Okay. So Brian tells the story a lot better than me, but basically he's like, yeah, they had to carry Bruce and I out in a body bag after that night. So, so Bruce is a big part of my history as well as Brian. And of course, that helped me secure getting picked up by Brian when the merge happened a few months later to start the 92 season. So I had 91 with the Saints. And then 92 was when the Magic formed, and that's when
won the championship that year.
That's when and we won the championship first year. In fact, Brian was introduced at the press conference, and he hates this. I know all coaches like Bruce and they hate to be. They just don't like being told that they've got the best team and that they're the championship coach. He was actually introduced in the press conference in January. We played the championship in November. We played in the winter in those days, as you guys know.
That's right. Yeah.
And he was introduced that day at the press conference as the 1992 championship coach. So the expectations from day one were, and basically he had the Spectres team, and he had Andre Lemanis and myself from the Saints side. Right. And of course, as we know, Andre Lemanis went on to do some amazing things and still doing great things in the coaching sphere.
Yeah.
So, so there's a bit of a...
So that was, now John Dorge is left Geelong, and he's now with Magic.
Yep.
Tony Ronaldson,
the Bear,
one of the all-time greats.
Sammy Mack.
Was Frankie D?
Frankie D didn't come yet. Jason Smith didn't come yet. Sammy Mack hadn't come yet. We had Darren Lucas, Scotty Ninnis, Darren Perry.
Oh, nice.
Bruce Bolden was the import there. It was all the Spectres guys basically. But yeah, he'd done a bit of recruiting. He'd recruited across Ninnis and Dorge. He got Ninnis from Adelaide, Dorge from Geelong. So yeah, it was cool. It was an all-star team. Like it was.
Now was McCaffrey, Billy McCaffrey on
he
that? He
didn't come till later, 96. He was in the next championship run.
Who was your imports on that team? Bruce, I guess.
We had Bruce Bolden, we had Milt Newton, and then Milt Newton was sent home, and we got a guy called Rob Rose.
Yeah, not a
that
bad.
was.
So how's that? We got a pretty gun team as it was. Of course, he was an unknown at that time.
Jeez.
So then Robbie Rose came in, and that's why we were able to win that championship against the Tigers.
I mean, how good?
Even though our point guard Darren Perry went down in game one, he did his Achilles, and normally you'd think a team that has a 30-minute point guard running the helm, you'd think you'd be stuffed, you'd be rooted. We lost game one, we lost our point guard, and that's when Rob Rose basically just stepped up and said, "Hey, it's my
all-time greats.
Give me the ball, and we'll be fine." And we won game two against the Tigers, and then we won game three, and the rest is history.
Now, in the off-season, was it the preseason immediately following that where we had the brawl?
Yes, the brawl. yeah, the brawl was
It was a preseason game, wasn't it?
brawl was later. Yeah, it was out at Knox. Yes, and
Yeah,
yeah, and my old mate,
get
my
that
good
on
mate
YouTube.
Ray Gordon. Turned to run the lane, and I just got smacked at the back of the head. And I think Ray had a 3-month holiday for that.
Yeah.
Brian actually got
He got in the thick of it and was thrown out of there.
he got fined. He was thrown like a rag doll by Sibley, I think it was. Yeah, I looked at that footage not long ago actually, but yeah, I was like out. I was out on the floor. I think my mate Simon Curl was actually in the box. He sort of like, Parky, you okay? And Brian's in there, and he left the bench, and yeah, Rob Rose was in there. Yeah, so that was
Parky Rose was throwing. That rivalry was intense. I mean, all the rivalries, Giants and Tigers, Giants and Specters, Magic, Titans. I mean, it was intense. It was fierce. And because, us as coaches, competitors, you want to protect your front door. We want to win in our backyard here. But it was tough.
Yeah.
I mean,
competing. Yeah, you're competing for sponsors, fans, newspaper space, all that. And you're right, the Giants, the rivalries with the Giants. Yeah, you got to throw the Giants in there too. But yeah, having the Giants, Giants, Magic, and Tigers during that time. The Giants had there was all different personalities. We had the cocky, arrogant American coach who stalked the sidelines. The Tigers had Lindsay, who's like weekend at Bernie's, just sort of sitting there, not doing much. And then you had Brett Brown, who'd kneel on that little funny little red towel after he took over. I think Brett Brown took over after you, didn't he, Bruce?
he did. Yeah, I came up to Brisbane. Brett took it. They struggled that first year, and then getting DMAC
He won it in '94.
around, but he still had Daryl Pierce, the late Daryl Pierce, and the late Mark Leader, and Patty, the redheaded stepchild, Pat Reedy.
Mailman.
Wait, I got a mailman who turned out to be just, God, how many championships did he win? Because he won that one, and then he went to Adelaide and won another. Did he not?
Did he? I didn't know. Did Mailman win some at
Adelaide, I think he did.
Testing my memory, testing my chemo.
I know, and we don't do our research very well here. We're not journalists. But,
Yeah.
all right, let's move on now. So that was, what year was that championship one? That was in '92.
And then the next one was
When
'96.
did Chris Anstey come into the fold? Because
About '95, I believe.
'95.
Yeah, that's when we sort of picked up the McKinnons. The Jason Smiths were coming through. Frank Drimmick was well sought after, and that during that period of that '93 to '96 period was when Brian really went for developing Aussies, and bringing in all those young guys, and all those guys I've mentioned, like Anstey, NBA Olympian, Jason Smith, captain of Australia Boomers Olympian, Sam McKinnon, Olympian, MVP of the league, and future MVP of the league. Anstey was an MVP of the league.
Sammy's a good mate of ours, and because he spent a lot of time up here in Brizzy, and we've become good friends. And that defensive player of the year,
Yeah, he won the
MVP of the year in the same
Defensive
year.
Player of the year.
Like,
Impressive.
He was in the top 10 in points scored, steals, blocks, rebounds.
Nuts.
Percentage, 3-point percentage. He developed his shot late. So yeah, look, I'm real good mates with Sammy, and obviously, and still, So I'm a huge fan. He was the fact he never made the NBA to me was just like when you think of the Aussies that have done great since him, that have come, it just amazes me that he never went to the big league, the show.
Well, we'll save that for when we get Sammy on as a guest. As you know, he was over in the States because Max, his son, we were talking about that in our intro, signed with David Patrick at LSU. So he's on nil money now. Not nil like zero, but name, image, and likeness. I'm so happy for Max.
Yeah.
We'll get on to Sammy, but that squad. So now you have McCaffrey. Robbie Rose is left, right?
Yep.
Rob went over to Adelaide with Dunlap.
Yep.
So now
Mike Kelly.
Mike Kelly.
that 96 year. He won the grand final MVP that year because of the job he did on Andrew Gaze. Obviously, having to guard that guy for 48 minutes.
That'd be a handful. So did Mike, was he an import or did he get his citizenship?
Yeah, I think he might not have even been an import, but well, he might not have been classified as an import. We all know he's American, but he'd been here and he'd done the rounds in in the NBL one or the SEBL, yeah, and all that. But he came in at just the perfect time, and he was exactly what the team needed as far as a steady hand, and he was just a great guy, great teammate, and also a great defender, and yeah, so that was
He was
having him and
high
Billy.
basketball IQ, He
Yeah,
had fits. That's the one because he was with Diamond Valley and we had him practice and we had some link with Diamond Valley with the Giants. And I really liked him, but I got Fisher and Dillon.
Yeah.
And then
the twin boulders.
The twin boulders, and then we had Joe Hillman. I'm thinking, where can we fit him in? He's very good. And I remember having a talk with him that I just can't see it happening.
Well, your mate took him.
Yeah, mate took him and great pickup. But that was an unbelievably talented Frankie Drimmick. People don't realize the nickname was the package. Am I right? Because he was the total package. 6'8", can handle it, can anywhere you want.
It was a great team.
Yeah, well, those guys. So Frankie, Chris, Sam, we're all on the '97 gold medal team.
Yes,
There might have been one more. One more, whatever you guys were calling.
Anstey was on that team. Frank, Sam, Smitty was too old. Joseph Smith was 1 year older. But yeah, and you had Nelly and Dwighty and all that crew, Brendan Mann. Yeah. But
and we had him on with Matt Shanahan talking about his peanut brittle feet.
oh, yes, I like it.
His bag full of nuts. Bag of nuts. That was the team where McCaffrey.
Yes, and yes, that was the year we had Billy McCaffrey, and it was amazing. Like I still feel, when I think back, I feel not guilty, I guess, but I actually played ahead of the Jason Smiths and the Frank Dremmicks. Sam had sort of developed and was a starter by then and stuff, but Jason Smith and Frank Dremmick were still like they were only 2 or 3 minute sort of 5 to 10. They weren't getting a lot of clock by '96, and those players obviously went on. Frank could have had a much better career, than he did, but Jason did go on in leaps and bounds after that. But yeah, so no, that was a pretty gun team, that '96 team. I tell you that, yeah, and we had to beat a fairly talented Melbourne Tigers team in that grand final series, but that's when Brucey Gray came in, and Brian was big on the strength and conditioning and being the fittest team and being the hardest working team. And we'd be doing track in January 1st. We're all my other mates that played for Townsville or Brisbane or whatever. They were all on holidays till February, March. And here we were, and, at a track in, at the 40-degree heat doing stuff. But I tell you what, Brian used to always sell it to us like, hey, this is going to count when and as it turned out, it was 1-1 after the first 2 games of that series. We only played best of 3 back in those days. Would have been great. I don't know why we weren't playing best of 5s back then. But anyway, we're playing best of 3s, and we played game 2 on the Friday night. And then it was within 34 hours we had to play game 3. And that just fell into our hands. Like we were just, like after that game 2, we've got the massage girls there. We've got their protein shakes, and we've got Brucey stretching us, and we've done all the work for the whole year, and we're just looking around at each other like this is going to be on Sunday. By the time Sunday rolled around for game 3, we were up 30 at half time. And I don't think there's ever been an NBL championship game that's been more one-sided than that game. And that's because we had the depth, we had the strength and conditioning, which was what Brian was big on. And, the Tigers had the talent. They had Gaze, Copeland, Bradkey, Sibley, Giddy, that crew. They had the talent. But in a 3-game series, especially when you're playing, so quickly for game 3, we knew that was, going to be in our favour. So Brian, he sold it to us. And I'll tell you, after that championship, yeah, I think everyone realised that. Yeah, maybe Brian might know what he's talking about.
I get on social media now, and it's in, it's kind of the tall poppy stuff. And obviously, I'm a huge supporter of Brian. He's mentored me. His father meant so much to me.
Ed,
Mike Dunlap, I spoke to Mike during the week. Now Mike and Brian still speak. I haven't had a chance to talk to Brian because he's down in Melbourne now. Family. I respect all that. The recruiting, I absolutely understand, but they're bagging the shit out of him.
oh, I know.
I
I know.
can't
It's
believe it. Like
fucking
tall
mind.
poppy syndrome. Like, man, how many?
I
And
can't believe it. Even the Olympic stuff he got, even the boomer stuff that he got. Like,
yeah,
Oh,
he
mate.
got, the,
unwarranted.
the
Me,
guy won. We've never won a medal. We've never won a medal. Anyway, yeah, there's
it
of course
just
it's a tough gig, this coaching thing. I mean, it's a tough gig. You got him. He's the greatest of all time. Like,
I don't know anybody, and I've known him all my life. And I remember us losing the CIF championship game, Brian's senior year in high school, uh, to Verbum Day, which was an all black. They had Raymond Lewis, who was the next year was a leading scorer in college basketball. They had four guys that were drafted, and this is a high school team. We played them tough. We went 29-1. They went 30-0. And we're playing at the LA Sports Arena in front of 15,000 people. It's televised. And I remember, and I didn't play. I'm a fresh or a sophomore. I'm in year 10, and we had Brian as our point guard. My brother is 6'3". He played the two, and then we had a front line that was like the NBA. We had a 6'11" center, 6'9", 6'8". We were huge. We weren't as quick, but we were a handful, and they gave it to us. And I remember driving out of there, and Brian was crying that he's a competitor. There's no quit in Gorgon.
oh, still to this day.
Correct. I
To
mean,
this
I
day,
learned
he's
a lot.
72, right? He'd be 72.
Yeah.
72 now. No one understands the obsession. I think you're a bit like this too, Bruce. But yeah, the obsession that Brian has, and the passion and the competitive. Like he's just a he just wants to it's just his whole existence.
Let me share a story. We're in Dongguan. I'm at the NBA school. Brian's staying there with Jake Jackomas. He's coach of the Guangdong Juniors. Every 3 years they have the China Games, and the way it is in South China, you practice in the morning. You'd have practice, then we'd eat some lunch, and then we'd get our workout in. I'm watching Brian and Jake. It's like you guys going into a. They were. I'm on a treadmill, and then I got a little upper body thing I do. I go to Gorge. He's out walking. It's hot. It's like Brisbane. It's subtropical weather, and he's out walking on the track. I go, mate, you got to have your nap now, and he goes, no. I've got a game I got from Synergy of Belarus versus Lithuania. I want to watch.
Yeah,
I go, fuck,
yeah,
Brian, mate, put on the Big Lebowski. Chill out.
exactly. Have a wine.
He finds that like I'm like, wow, man, I'm not like that. I got to turn that stuff off. He's 24 hours a day.
Yeah.
You
Oh,
know,
he gets up every morning and he'll be on his thing, and he'll be looking at film from practice the day before,
yeah.
like, or he'll be looking at a game, like, yeah, like he's just nonstop. He's just nonstop, and yeah, to be around here, and the other thing, like you said, he keeps fit. Like during the 90s, I don't know if he still does it now in his 70s, but when he was in his 40s, he'd lift weights with the team.
Yeah.
Every day he'd be, lifting weights, talking shit, having a good, it was a fun, and I loved that sort of stuff. It's like he'd get your work done. He'd get his work done. He did have a humorous, human being side to him,
Yeah.
but it was always after we had done the weights, the individuals, the 2.5 hour training session. 10 more minutes, guys. 10 more minutes. It'd be another 15 minutes, 20 minutes. But then when it was all said and done, we'd play shooting games, and it'd be flies eyes, and and I love that sort of stuff, because it showed the I guess the fun side of the man. But he was, he was just, it was, but that was after, the meetings and the training, and all that. But yeah, he obviously, yeah, I love the man. I mean, I don't hide that fact.
Yeah,
And he's been a
we'll
huge,
get Gorge on eventually. He's going to be coming up here apparently to do a speaking engagement for Villanova, and we'll get him into the Steve McLeod studios.
yeah, I'll get him in. Get him in here.
Or just at the beach. We're at the beach.
Oh, I know. I just love that. It's so calming just to have those waves rolling in the background there.
Pivot.
Okay.
Now,
Yeah.
you finished in 98. Is that right? That was your last
Yeah,
season?
I played I don't know if you remember, they had an interim season before they switched from winter to summer.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, back to back.
Yeah. So so that wasn't good for me because I developed a back injury in that last, and I was 32, which nowadays isn't that old, but back then 32 was sort of, maybe considered a little bit older. It's probably like the 35 of today.
Well, what about Delhi's talking? He's just signed 3 years, and he's talking about making.
Yeah, he's 36, right?
He's 36.
Yeah, he's 36, which is that's amazing now. But I mean, you're talking about Delhi here.
That's a different human being.
I was a normal human, human being, and and that was when the Giants and the Magic merged, and Brian was obviously going to be the coach, and he actually sacked me the same way he recruited me. He brought a 6-pack of beer over, and just said, "Parky, I can't get you in. Your back's fucked. I've got to take 5 guys for the Magic. I've got to take these 5 guys for the Giants. I don't have a spot." So, at least he told me to my face, and he did it the same way. And that's the way things roll. I mean, I survived the first merge 9-10 years earlier when the Saints and the Spectres merged, and I was, timing wise, it was perfect for me. I got to get a good contract and get a good coach, a good team, win championships. And so that was my sort of my time was done. My time was done in the first summer season.
Right.
Right. Okay. Now, you share this with Steve and I. You did basketball. You did the color commentating. You were very good.
I love the commentary. I did it with ABC with the late great Clinton Gribus, who was just a great man, and then I did Fox stuff. And I was looking like I was going to have a career with the Fox Sports because John Casey at the time was going to, I think, was being headhunted by ESPN Asia or something. So, as you know, back in those days, it was Casey and Carfino. Well, they were looking at moving Steve to the host position and bring me in as the color guy. And so we did a couple of weekends of me doing it. But then, as it turned out, Casey didn't go to ESPN. He stayed with Fox. And I did a few things with Fox. I did a few things with Sky TV for New Zealand. I did some Cairns games for the Win TV. I did some other things in TV, some sports shows and things like that.
We talked about this, when we lined this up this week. I think it was in Japan, and you came on, so it's dubbed all over in Japan. I could still hear your voice. But what was the name of that? Because you were great.
Sports Know-How.
Sports Know-How.
We did 20 episodes, different sports.
So tell me, my younger brother's an actor, and he's got his SAG and AFTA card. Did you need to have those?
No.
Okay.
No.
Well, you were very good, mate. And I thought,
coming from you, I appreciate that. It's I loved it. It was fun. Look, anything that you enjoy and have fun with, that's why basketball is such a great sport, because I love and I love. Look, I've said it before. I love the sound of my own voice. I'm happy to admit
so does
that.
Steve.
So does the interrupter.
It's turned up.
No. I've watched many episodes, so sorry, not watched. I've only listened.
I'm going to get into this though, Parky. Did you write that yourself, or did somebody else write it, or did you improvise? Because
there's a bit of improvising and a bit of The producer obviously had a bit of a say, but the good thing was that he always said, "Just look, have fun with it." And so if you tell me have fun with it, then we're going to have some fun. And and I really enjoyed that, and I've tried to get back into the commentary. Actually, I've been hitting up the NBL guys for a while, trying to get back in there.
There's a few that you would be better
Well,
than
there's
right
too
now.
much, too
Like,
much talking.
Yeah. Well, look, you're sitting next to a guy. I mean, when Bruce used to, I thought Bruce was.
Bruce would be amazing. You
Bruce
would
was
be amazing.
it's, yeah, but yeah, maybe one day I'd love to get back in it. And public speaking is something that I dabbled in. I did a men's lunch, an Inspire men's lunch for Macca. You know Macca, the Hawks court announcer. You're familiar with Macca, Dave McFarlane? Anyway, he yeah, and I did that. I did a talk in late January, and I really enjoyed it. And people seem to get a good response from it.
Your stories. You've got a great story, and you are a good storyteller, and you do.
I learned from the best.
Yeah, well, I learned so much from this guy as well, and look, we made the decision because we'd coached a bit rep stuff the last few years, and just again because timing in life and all the rest. But I said instead of coaching, let's just start talking because you see all these other people doing these podcasts, and you tang shit on them, and then like I think ours is just very much a chat. Like I've just enjoyed.
Yeah.
Listening to you go bounce from one thing to another because we provide a platform. We've got no, we're not making a living out of this, is basically what I'm saying. We're doing it for fun and we're doing it because we.
So you're not actually at the beach?
No,
No,
mate.
we're not on the beach. That's just that's a screensaver.
We're on the 12th. We're on the 12th floor here.
12th floor at the Wollongabba.
But mate, I gotta say, great presence in front of the camera, well spoken, humor. You had the jokes going, and I'm trying to find. I'm there by myself, and it was either Japan or Taiwan. And I'm trying to run out to, hey, mate, Parky's on TV. I got nobody to share it with. So I get on the go, hey, Gorge, have you seen, where's Brian at the time? He was still in the States. Yeah, Parky's got that show. Well, I can't read Japanese. I can't.
That's probably the only place they played it. I don't know if
I kept my TV on that channel at all times, and if it would ever turn it on, no, it's not on yet.
So you're saying I'm big in Japan?
Well,
big in Japan.
I've never been there. I've actually just in my office. I've actually got the collection of the whole series in VHS.
Oh wow,
like that's how old. Yeah.
Well, how many were there? How many episodes?
There was 20 episodes. Yeah. And basketball was one of them. I don't know which one you saw.
You were in a caravan, or no? It was like a mobile.
Buggy?
No. You're in a car. It was like a caravan. The caravans that you can drive. What do you call them?
Mobile homes.
Kind of like that.
Motorhome.
Yeah. And you're given thing, and then walked out, and I thought, hey, this guy, that's Parky, fucking good. You need an agent, mate.
Yeah, no, well, I've had a bit to do in the last few years, but no, now that I've kind of got a bit of clear runway, I'm looking at getting into some stuff like that.
Can I campaign on your behalf?
Yeah,
please do.
There's another guy that's a great public speaker, as long as he doesn't have to read it. And I think we were speaking about this when Gorgon was on the Wide World of Sport with Maxie.
They gave him a teleprompter. Yeah, but they gave him a teleprompter.
And Brian's reading it. He's got his head turned all the way back. And so I go, wow, that's not the Gorgon I know. I mean, just riff.
Because he's trying to read it.
And they gave him a teleprompter.
Yeah. What did they? He can't read a teleprompter. I said, mate, what did they say? And he goes, just wooden.
Okay, I believe you.
Which is not Brian at all.
No way.
Brian at all. You were very wooden. Anyway, mate. So this has been a great thing for us. We had a couple of questions. Who's your all-time toughest opponent in the NBL?
Well, it depends what end of the floor you're talking about, because having to guard Andrew Gaze in his prime, which I didn't get that job, obviously, for obvious reasons.
Well, nobody could guard him. It's fair to say I was petrified
to guard him down. But I will say, down the other end, your eyes would light up if he was guarding me, which is probably the way he felt about me when I was guarding him. So I would say offensively, he would have been the toughest. Like, just what do he'd be really good. He'd be talking to you like, oh yeah, Parky, so how's things go? And then he'd backdoor and lay it up and gorge and be like, fucking, what are you doing? So I was constantly, he'd start talking to me. I'm like, I'm not talking to you, Drewy. Fucking shut up! I'm not talking to you. I'm gonna try and guard you. He'd wobble his head. He'd pretend he's tired, and you'd think, oh shit, he's tired. Oh, this is good. And then bang, back door, or he'd catch it and shoot in your face.
Incredibly fast for a guy 6'7". And that was the thing. I was talking like, make the guy, he can shoot the shit out of it, but all Gazes could.
Yeah.
When I arrived in 77, Lindsey Gaze was the leading scorer of the VBA.
Yeah.
At 40.
Yeah.
I was 22.
Yeah.
I'm like, mate, it comes off his hand. There's not a Gaze that I know that
Mark Gaze.
they can all shoot the shit out of it. And Lindsey's was feathery soft with perfect backspin.
Yeah.
Andrew was just
ridiculous.
He gave us fits. And he remains. I don't know if I could be as humble as Andrew, having achieved everything that he has.
Yeah. No, he's a great ambassador.
Humble isn't a word that I normally associate with you, Bruce.
Here comes the insults. Parky.
Yeah, anyway.
Anyway, now the next one. And you've played with some great players that we've mentioned, but give me your two best teammates.
Oh, look, I can't. I
I
can't pick two because a lot of them are a huge part of my life to this day. Like, when I think of Jason Smith, I was meant to go on a walk with him this morning, actually. Sam McKinnon, Frank Drimmick, I'm still in touch with. The Chris Anstey's, Shane Brights, Darren Lucas. And Darren Lucas is a great example of, like, I didn't really like him when I played with him. But we've become really good mates, with the has-beens that we go on these tournaments, and all those guys, Anstey, Lucas, Bridie, Sammy's come, we've even got Wortho in there, Dave Anderson's, guys like that are younger guys, but the Magic teammates, that crew of guys, I really can't.
And the list you gave him is good.
It'd definitely be out of that, Anstey, Smith, McKinnon, Drimmick, that sort of crew, and still to this day, I still play with these guys. Like, it was only 6 months ago we were up in the Gold Coast. We were trying to get BP up there to be our guest coach for a game. So it's so that's so I'm sorry. I'll throw out those guys because they're, like I said, they're such a huge part of my life even to this day. And what is it? I haven't played with them for 27 years or something. It's like my coach, who I consider a mentor and a friend, who I lean on and who has really helped me out in some really tough times. So I do feel blessed that I've had all these great teammates. I mean, not only were they great players, but it's
good blokes.
Important. They're not playing anymore. Well, they are. They're playing, kicking around with me in some old man leagues or whatever. So they're all just great humans. So I feel very blessed, very lucky.
Parky, have you ever considered coaching?
Yes, I did. I did for a while, because, as I said, Brian was a huge influence on my life, and and I thought, I could do this. But I'll never forget. I was coaching. I was assistant with Vince Corelli at Sandringham, and I got a head coaching job at Maccabi. And and I remember during that time, I lent on Brian, and I sort of said, Brian, all this politics, like dealing with board members and kids' parents, and I can't do, and he's like, mate, that's coaching, like that. And I'm like, really? Is that because he used to keep that sort of separate from the team, like I didn't know what was going on with the board meetings and having to deal with all the political, the politics side. I'm not a very good politician, not saying that Brian necessarily is, but he has a way of being able to sort of segregate, whatever the word is, where he he can sort of put that to one side. Whereas for me, that was one thing that just really,
Ate a
really,
whole
really messed with me. So yeah, I coached a lot of juniors. I coached my girls when they were at Bulleen, sort of through juniors and stuff. And I really did enjoy the junior coaching, but I didn't enjoy the parents. I
No.
never had a problem with a kid. I never ever had a problem with a kid ever, or just about anyone I ever coached. But it's the board members or the father or the or this guy's wants and that's the stuff I really sort of struggled with.
You
And that's
wouldn't be the first coach that found that to be difficult and say, hey, I don't need this.
It's
It's
real, and I think it's got worse. Like our parents probably, like my parents said nothing, didn't, no matter what sport I played, they just shut up.
same here. I remember I was cut from. I tried out. I was cut from Dandenong Rangers, just like Andrew Bogut.
unbelievable.
Even though I think he had a far better career than I did. But that's one thing I've got in common with Bogues, is that we were both shunted from the Dandenong Rangers thing. I think I went and tried out at Nutter Warding, and I think in those days they only had 3 rep teams, A, B, and C. And when I was bottom age, as a junior, I didn't make any rep teams. And my parents didn't call up and say, oh, little Andrew should be in the... They actually said, oh, Andrew, well, you're not good enough.
Hard enough.
You better train a bit harder, son.
Yeah, there you
You're not
go.
good enough. And I'm like, oh, I didn't make the team, Oh, well, that's because you're not good enough. Like, the parents tell their kids that now. I mean,
No.
it's they were in the game themselves, and they're like, well, you've got to get better, if you want to make these teams. So when I was top age, I'd generally make a team, whether it was with the Tigers or then became Knox Raiders when I was playing juniors with them. But yeah, nowadays I think parents, their kids playing for Eltham 12, and he's playing rep for Eltham 12, and they think, oh, he's going to play for Australia and be an NBA draft pick, and he's going to play NBA. It's a glorified domestic league sometimes. These, when they, all these teams they have. So yeah, but in saying that, Victoria is a very strong. We've got a very strong sort of basketball, base here. We always sort of have. So I'm not going to poo-poo on the whole system and stuff, because really, that we've got a pretty good, junior system. It's just that coming from the coach's point of view, it's hard, dealing with parents and things. When I was brought up with to have fun and enjoy the game, and if you're not good enough, you're not good enough.
Yeah.
Get better.
Get better. Yeah.
Try and get better if you're not good, and that's what happened to me. I wasn't in any state teams, as a junior going through.
And we grew up in an era there were we sort of get a little bit dark, I guess, about, people coaching, charging $50 an hour and they're teaching shit. Mate,
don't get me started. I go and work out. I work out every Friday at Mullen where Timsy has her thing, and we're doing it because I'll have to tell you about that too. Another humble brag. So remind me to come back to that. But yeah, and we're there training and doing our stuff, and then you look over at a court and there's a parent sitting there, and they're paying some guy with a shooting machine. And these kids, like their footwork's all wrong. Yeah. They're not shooting it, and I'm thinking, how much? I feel like going up to the parents and saying, listen, whatever you're paying this guy,
it's
a waste of money. Like I feel like saying, hey, buddy, sit down. Let me just give me 10 minutes, and I'll show you a few little drills, footwork, and do shots at game paint and stuff. These kids are and they're sitting there,
and they call all these moves a name now. Mate, put it between your legs and have good crossovers, all you fucking need. But now it's a push jab with a behind your back and a shuffle and a twist, and you shoot it. And everything has a name. It blows me away.
I've said this a few times. I'm going to repeat it, that here in basketball Queensland, it seems like they need money, or everything they do is about making money. Our peak body. Why don't you give an accreditation for people that do individuals? Because same thing, I saw a guy, now he's a head of basketball at one of the GPS schools, and he set up the gun, right, or Dr. Dish, and this guy was shooting. This kid's going to be a big time player, but every time his feet No, he's shooting a fall away. Nobody guarding him, landing on one foot. The footwork was what I was, because everything starts from the feet up. And I had to tell him, I said, mate, it, he's learning bad habits.
Yes.
They're going to be very hard to correct it now when there's nobody guarding him. And he didn't know what I was talking about. And he was charging there's 3 kids there working out, and he's charging and he's making money out of it. But mate,
They don't know any different,
you're causing more harm than good.
Yeah.
And when here I saw Nathan Sobey working out a guy when he was with the Bullets. It was great. I saw Will McDowell White. It was great.
Yeah.
I mean, these are really, good sessions.
Yeah.
That was worth paying. Then I've seen some guy that he's on the bubble. He's an American that was made paint by numbers. It was bad. You're not correcting. All it is, we'll get this hour over and done with. I'll get my money.
Yeah.
It's a great statement about where basketball is at, that parents are prepared to pay extra for their kids to get. But boy, as a parent, you got to know what you're buying.
Yeah.
Does the guy know what he's doing?
Yeah, and that's why your interview you did with Timsy was very enlightening, and it was great because I was already aware of her, what she does, and having people like her and you, Bruce, and it's very important to because you see some like I said, I'll go to and you see these courts and you see the way and it's like they're paying for like parents are paying money for this guy, and it's just
a lot of money in some of these.
Oh, it's ridiculous. Yeah.
I'd get some standard accreditation that
No, you're right.
Even after I'm only going to do 1 hour session, these are the outcomes. We're going to record every shot you take, from whatever area, whatever finishing move we're going to work on, and we're going to give you, here's the stats.
Yep.
So that, and now you can go away and work on something on your own. You're buying a block of them, then I want some assessments.
But I
want some stats.
But what you just said there is it's to give them stuff to then go away and work on it, put in the hours when they've got a good coach teaching them the right footwork, techniques, all that. But then it's like, don't go home and get on your phone.
Yeah.
Or play video games or watch NBA or there's so many things, no. Go and shoot for hours.
And I think that some of the juniors
play one-on-one, try your moves out one-on-one.
They go to these things, and you're right. Then they'll be in the F rep team going to state titles at under 18, and you're just blowing my mind that they're wearing the jersey to say I'm a rep player, but they're so far from it.
Yeah.
Parents are spending hundreds and hundreds of dollars to send them to these tournaments. But
and they don't have the fundamentals.
It's just different from when we grew up. No one paid basketball coaches in my era, and I'm sure yours. But I guess they've been doing it for swimming and tennis for a long time.
Yeah.
Done well. I don't have a problem. It's just that unfortunately, it's not managed really well by the association.
There's no oversight. Mate, this has been great. We're going to put a bow on this, and you will be a return.
We could talk for it. It's over already.
It's over already, matey.
It's done already.
I got to get this off to my son is our producer. He's down in Melbourne. He's got other gigs going on down there.
Yeah.
We got to wrap it up. We're going to have to.
Okay. Fair enough. Well, let's call it part 1.
Part 1. And then, Parky, can I ask when your has-beens come to Queensland next time? Let Bruce and I know, and we'll come down and we'll be Statler and Waldorf on the sideline. And
the boys would love it. The boys would love it.
Some shit.
But nah, it's been a pleasure, guys. And like I said, you guys have been an inspiration for me too. So, yeah, I think keep doing what you're doing. And like I said before, mate, you're people, accomplishments are great, but I think people are remembered for what they can endure. So I'm all about that.
Oh, mate, you're an absolute champion, and thanks for giving your time up to chat to Bruce and I, mate. We loved it.
No worries. A couple of insults, a couple of violations.
I'll make sure that I send it to you. Kyle will be editing tomorrow. We'll have it up Monday. We'll send it to you. Make sure that all your huge circle of networking, get it on.
Oh, I've told a few people that I'm going to be on it, so they've already asked me to send the link. So yeah, there'll be I was just speaking to Greg Gorgon actually, because he's obviously a big mate of mine. That's something Brian did. He summed up my personality after about a year, and he said, "You get along well with my brother Greg." I'm like, Greg, Kev. Oh yeah, Kev's great. I love Kev. He's like, no, I got another brother. His name's Greg. And I'm like, oh, cool. He's like, yeah, he lives in Vegas. I'm like, oh, okay. Yeah. You guys like all the same things. You might want to hook up with this guy. So anyway, 33 years later, we're still best of mates. So
wow.
He sends his best, Bruce. Obviously, so he's waiting on this link. He's one guy that's ready to.
He gets all of our podcasts. He's on my mailing list.
Yes. No, but he told me that he can't click on him. It doesn't work. He's not real great. He's a gorgon. Okay. He's a gorgon.
No more.
It's so I've got to work out. Yeah, I'll work out a way where he just has to just click on, and hopefully it'll.
I'll give him some instructions.
But you guys are on Apple now. See, Spotify was a bit harder to get, but you guys are on Apple now. So I listen to you on the Apple podcast now.
Okay.
Wow, we're really spreading.
Yes. So you're big time, mate. That must be your son's work doing that.
Well, mate, I've just enjoyed chatting to you, Parky.
I appreciate that, Steve.
Mate, you're an absolute champion, and we will definitely have you again. Let us know when you're in Queensland, and soon.
No, we'll do. Thanks, guys.
Good on you, Parky. Take care, matey.
See ya.